Fine artist Malebona Maphutse's solo exhibition titled Mamoloyi, Moloi, Mamoloyi, Re Wa Loya, that's set to open at the Bag Factory Artists Studios in Johannesburg from the 28th March to the 18th of April 2019. And on this body of work, the 2018 Bag Factory Young Female Residency Recipient shines the spotlight on the exploration of the concept of witchcraft. Now, Malebona joins me now in studio to tell us more about her work. A very good morning to you, Malebona. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
This title is very, very catchy, hey? And to tell us about the significance of this title.
I mean, the title is derived from the understanding of what you might say Moloi is vis-a-vis a traditional healer. So the misunderstanding between the two notions, this is where the title is derived from, but it's essentially to point out how throughout history certain types of narratives are pushed forward to propagate people's minds into thinking one thing over the other, and that's a systematic issue that every South African or everyone in the world actually has to deal with. So this is the reason for the title.
And I guess we need to focus more on this fine line between a traditional healer and a witchcraft. I mean, people don't actually know the difference between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think people might think they know the difference, might say that they know the difference, but it's a fine line that people might not necessarily completely understand. I mean, in the streets of Johannesburg, you see pamphlets and posters stuck all over and people offering certain types of services to people, claiming to be healers. And some people, when they do see those posters, react as what is this Wa Loya, or what does this actually mean, right? So the point of the exhibition is to kind of have these kinds of conversations on what is then part of history, what is then supposed to be something that we say, okay, this is what Loya is, or this is what a traditional healer is, or this is what a healer is. I mean, it comes in different forms. There's people who call themselves pastors who are supposed to heal people, but might not necessarily fulfill those things, or say that they'll fulfill those things, but not necessarily follow through. So people promise you marriage, people promise you exuberant things such as riches, come in every different type of form of propagation, whether it be on television, whether it be pastors, whether it be traditional healers, or Moloi, or anyone who promises you something that they might not necessarily be able to fulfill.
How then does your work tell those stories that you've just highlighted?
Okay, so my work tells those stories through a character that I created called Mamoloyi. Mamoloyi moves through time and space. She time travels, and she tries to go to certain events that might be seen as important. So the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck, for instance, and tries to change the timeline by changing certain types of events that happen in that moment. So that's what she does. She tries to travel through time to change the perception of history through her universe, if you might like.
You say that this exhibition draws from the premise of religious syncretism to realize the links between Christianity and witchcraft. And I suppose that's a totally different dimension to this conversation altogether.
Well, I mean, not entirely so. I mean, because I think syncretism, or the understanding of a morphed kind of understanding of Christianity or witchcraft or traditional healing, means that people have formed new histories. People have formed new ways of understanding certain types of doctrines, new ways of understanding certain types of ways of thinking spiritually. So it's about changing the perception of one thing to the other by morphing things and creating ways to kind of think forward and create new histories, in a sense. Because some people don't say, I'm just a Christian, or I'm just a traditional healer. Some people are both. Some people have a language between the two and have a way of communicating between the two, which creates a new understanding or a new lens to look at something that you might historically say is one or the other.
Mamoloyi and the universe, what's that all about?
So the Mamaloyi universe, she has an advisory board that she works with, superhero advisory board, that consists of Queen Mojaji and Lebo Matosa, who are advisors. So they help her through her missions. So like I said, she goes through missions throughout time, and she tries to solve certain types of situations in order to change the timeline. So they help her in those moments fight certain types of oppressive people or oppressive natures, or anything that might change the timeline that we already exist in a sense. Okay,
so what kind of conversations that you want people to talk about after having viewed your work, or what is it that you want them to take away after viewing your work?
I mean, I think it's important for everyone to kind of take what they want to take out of the work and understand what they feel connects them most to the work, because I think the audience that might see my work is quite different in terms of cultural backgrounds. So some people might take something different from my show, but I'd really like for people to have a reflective nature of how they understand history, how they understand learning about history and what that means for them. That's what I'd kind of like for people to see when they interact with my work.
My understanding is that they should view your work and then come up with their own conclusions rather than you instilling a particular agenda or narrative in them, hey?
Yes.
Okay. Give us the details when it will be taking place.
So it will be taking place at Bag Factory Studios on the 28th of March in Fordsburg, 10 Mahlatini Street at 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome to come.
Okay.
So it's been a great journey so far. Bag Factory Studios has been an amazing space. I've grown tremendously throughout the process, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
I'm actually looking forward to those conversations.
Me
It's
too.
really interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
we
you so
appreciate
much.
it. That was our fine artist, Malebona Maphutse, and she's been talking to us about her solo exhibition, Mamoloyi, Moloi, Mamoloyi, Re Wa Loya, opening at the Bag Factory Artist Studios from the 28th of March to the 18th of April. Pearl, it's over to you.